Good evening and welcome to the first episode of the IHSBCA Coaches Corner. My name is Jeff Scott. Tonight I'm joined by Coach Terry Gobert from Jasper High School, Coach Greg Dikos from Penn High School, and Coach Jake Burton from Twin Lakes High School. Coach Gobert's been coaching for 37 years now. He enters his 37th year. 822 wins, 26 sectionals, 17 regionals, 12 semi-states, 4 state runner-ups, 6 state championships. Coach Dikos is also entering his 37th year with 800 and I believe 22 wins. I might have mistaken on yours, Coach Gobert. I think he had 820. But Coach Dikos has 22 sectional titles, 14 regionals, 7 semi-states, 1 state runner-up, 6 state championships. And Coach Burton's entering his 44th year of coaching with 894 wins, 11 sectional titles, 5 regionals, 2 semi-states, 1 state runner-up, and 2 state championships. Quite the resume there, gentlemen.
Are those guys counting your summer games?
I want to start tonight, guys. The topic is early season practice. We've all started practicing here this week, headed into the second week of practice. And just a lot of things that I'd like you guys to elaborate on and touch on what you guys have done, may have done, things you may have changed and what you're doing now, what worked and what didn't work. And we're going to focus on that early season here as everybody's getting started in the baseball season. First question I would like for you guys to handle is, how do you handle your tryout process? That's a tricky thing with some schools, with the amount of kids they have. Some schools don't have to worry about that. When you talk about that, I would like to know, has the new rules, when we've had the ability to practice 2 days a week, 2 hours at a time, we've been doing that for quite a few years now. Has that helped or changed your process in handling tryouts? Coach Gobert, we'll start with you.
Well, it's different getting those 2 days in, and it varies from year to year. For example, this year, especially down south, the weather's been outstanding. So we've been able to get out on the field during those 2 days. And so traditionally over the years, we'd be in the gymnasium in any facility we could find, and you just you pound the fundamentals indoor over and over and over. And, the conditioning is pretty tough, and that kind of took care of itself, some of the numbers. And now that we're able to get outside 2 days a week or do even if it's indoors, you're allowed to do baseball related drills. It's better. It's easier to get a good look at a kid. It used to be more about their toughness, character, and you hope you're making the right decision on the baseball end if you didn't know much about them coming in. So now that we're able to get outside, like this year, it was really easy tryout period for the kids. And we had 19 freshmen come out, and we kept all 19, which we've never done that. But it's a different world today, I guess. But it used to be we had to cut a lot more kids, and it was very tough not getting out on the diamond in preseason.
Well, I've never had a problem at Twin Lakes because I've only had 20-some kids out. So we keep them all basically, and they may eliminate themselves if they don't make it to the 5 a.m. workouts. But when I was at McCutcheon for the 37 years there, we'd have 70 kids or so try out. And of course, we didn't have the privilege of being able to practice 2 days a week, 2 hours a day. Gobert probably's done that down there all along, but Dikos and I have to follow the rules there, so we haven't done that. But because we did that, and we'd have to run them hard and do those things like Terry was speaking of, and they eliminate themselves because they weren't going to make that sacrifice to come in at 5 a.m. and run and do all the things we expect of them. Plus, we throw weights in there with it. So we've not had the problem of kids and tryouts. We keep them all if they stay with us for the I guess it's 2 months, 8 weeks we're working them out, and that hasn't been a problem for us at a smaller school.
At Penn, I tell you, I'm blessed with a couple of things that I don't. One of the things I don't like to do is waste time on things that kids can do on their own, and conditioning is one of those things. We have We have a speed and agility once a morning at school is run by our conditioning coach. We've had a conditioning coach at Penn, I think I tell you what, it's been about 10 years, and that's been a game changer for me. And one of the things he's added also this year is a yoga session once a week. So they get their speed and agility. They get their stretching and the yoga once a week. And then we also have lifting during the school day. And one of the things I could never find time to lift. And I wasn't going to, when it came to batting practice and lifting, I was going to take batting practice, and we just kind of gutted up, and the kids were weaker. Now my kids are a lot stronger than they've been in the past. I find myself now when going as soon as it's legal, we go live inter squad, and it's a controlled scrimmage type thing, and the kids are able to go live. I don't do that with the freshman and the sophomore, however. It's just it takes too much time for them. So we use a machine, but it's, again, a controlled scrimmage. And we throw some rules in there that we work on. We can work on double cuts and things like that, where they're supposed to be, those kind of things. And through that process, I'm evaluating, the coaching staff is evaluating, so we're ready to go March 11th, whatever that day. I think it was March 11th, Monday. But we're ready to make some decisions right away because we've been watching them since September, in the month of September.
Hey, Greg, how much has turf changed that for you?
Oh my God. That's another game changer. You mentioned that you're able to go outside. We practiced indoors the month of January, and then we were outdoors February 1st, and we practiced outside the whole month of February. Got a little cold at times, and we had to adjust it by shortening our practices and what we did, but we went outside. And I plan on next week's supposed to be cold, but I told the kids, after getting a taste of outdoors, you don't want to come back inside. Under special conditions, we'll come inside, and I can talk about that. But that's been a game changer. We had a field cleanup day, and in the past it took 6 to 8 hours to get a field. Now 2 hours max. I sent our JV freshmen over to the JV field, which is natural grass, and they worked on that. I left my seniors at our field. We picked up leaves the whole time. Basically that was it. So it was a game changer for me. It added a few years to my life right there.
We've been.
So how many days? Oh, I'm sorry, Coach.
I was just going to say, I've coached for 44 years now. I've never been on our field in February, never. And this year we were on it 6 times. We can only go twice a week, and so we're on it 6 out of the 8 possibilities in February, and that's the first time that's ever happened. And we have natural grass.
How many days do you evaluate to make cuts when we start on Monday? Was it a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day deal for you guys that had to make cuts?
I'll go. We went faster than ever this year, and we did have a couple guys, older guys, that either we cut or they chose not to stay with it. But because you're able to get that extra early baseball specific work in, it wasn't that difficult this year. We did the same thing. We did controlled scrimmage at both levels because most of my staff is in basketball, and although they come in and throw some on their own in the winter, they're not ready to go. But it helped a lot I've told the kids they've been evaluated more on baseball skills than any group ever. And then the way we do our cuts is I meet with the kids one-on-one. Now we have at least 2 staff members there. It's a different world, and make sure everybody understands what was said. And it's one of the toughest things and always has been in coaching. And as I told the group before we met individually, the game ends for everybody at some point, whether it be in Little League or, Babe Ruth, or during a high school or after college, or even after the professional career. And that's one of the toughest things for me personally, is to be the guy that has to make them realize that as far as organized baseball, it's over.
Jake, you want to go or?
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Greg.
You
I'll
didn't
follow up.
Okay. I'm kind of like Terry. We were ready to go on Monday. I mean, we've been watching, evaluating. We have speed times, we have strength assessments, and that's done out of the baseball practice. I mean, it's done during our lifting classes and speed and agility stuff. So we get times on all our kids. So it's the baseball. I'm more interested in their baseball aptitude and the baseball skills, arm strength, those kind of things. And we were ready to go really early. I mean, we made decisions probably Monday evening. We have a situation. We cut over 25 kids. We divide those kids, make sure that they're spoken to by a coach, and I handle the older kids, and my assistants handle the freshmen, sophomores. As far as that, we want to make sure that they understand what they need to work on and give it a try next year, and hopefully they continue to play.
Did you meet with each one of those kids individually, Coach Dikos?
Yes, we did. Not me personally. Like I said, I took care of the older kids, the juniors, and we didn't cut any seniors this year, but we had some very, very tough decisions to make at that junior level. Great kids that we had to let go. I kept more people this year than I ever have. I think we got 18 per squad, and the reason why we can do that is the PO situation. That's something that was really unheard of for me up until 5-6 years ago, but that's becoming more and more common. And if you get that PO, then you can keep a few more kids. But this year, like I said, we kept more than we ever have, and we'll find out if it works or not.
Hey, Greg, I see Jake wants to write down some of those names of those kids you cut, trying to figure out what the time difference is between the two schools.
You know what? When I first started, I was told that same thing, and I said, okay, yeah, you can have my kids that I cut, and I want to schedule you 5 times during that season. This year you'll take some kids, and they'll be pretty decent ball players from area schools around here, and they just given a chance, and kids are just a little bit better, and that's the way it goes.
Give them the directions of Monticello, Greg. Hey, seriously though, I think the biggest thing that the IHSA has done for us there, though, is to allow us the two-hour workouts, because by the time the season actually starts, you should have a pretty good idea who can play the game and who can't. And you don't even have to worry about cutting. I mean, it'd take one day if you ask me, and you've been working out for 2 months with them for however many hours a day that is, 2 hours a day, and how many hours that is total. But I would think you could be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Gobert, you made a comment a while ago, and I think it's pretty important for young coaches to understand the importance of this. You said that when you meet with players, you've got another coach around with you. Can you elaborate on that and the importance of having another coach around when you're meeting with a player one-on-one?
Yeah, it goes a couple ways. One, just to make sure they get it correctly, because I got a kid one time and he came back 3 days in a row, and that's probably when it started. But also just to be safe. I mean, in this day and age, you get accused of, or potentially as a teacher, an educator, teacher, or coach, you got to be pretty careful about it, and just to make sure that we're clear. And sometimes, for example, if the kid was mainly a pitcher, my pitching coach is there and he can answer even in-depth more questions, but also just to make sure that the kid is understanding what was said, because sometimes I can beat around the bush so bad. I had a kid one year because he didn't rebound, he didn't hustle, didn't pass, didn't set picks, because we used to play basketball for conditioning. And after he left the room, my assistant goes, "You didn't name one baseball related thing." And I'm joking, but there's a lot of truth to it, because we're all looking for the same thing, a team player, an unselfish player. So I think this day and age, for a couple different reasons, just to cover your back, and also just to make sure that everybody's clear and on the same page.
Absolutely. Next question I'd like for you guys to touch on. What are you guys trying to accomplish in the early part of the season through practice? What's your main focus? What are you trying to get in? There's a lot of things going on. Coach Burton, you mentioned the we have the advantage now of practicing a little bit prior to that March 11th date, whatever that is, and the weather's been really good for us over the past few years to do some of that. But what are some things you're really trying to accomplish and focus on early in the season here in practice? Coach Burton, we'll start with you.
Okay, I think the most important thing we're trying to get through is a little bit of work ethic and attitude about what we want out of a player. Most of them know it because they've had me before. So new kids coming in have probably heard about it, so that they understand a little bit about it. But I think that's one of the most important things, that other than the fact that we've got to get our arms in shape and get them ready to go. I really hate a guy comes in and says, "Hey, you can't throw your 7 innings the first of the game." We've had 3 months of throwing. Why wouldn't you be able to throw your 7 innings the first day? And I don't like it when someone tells me, "Hey, we're not going to use pitchers that strongly at the start of the season." We do it just like we're in the middle of the season. I mean, I think, you've been going long enough. You get the arms in shape. You should be able to do that. So I think the conditioning of the arm, as well as the overall conditioning of kids, kids they're just not. They're not in shape by the time they get to you. I don't know if they don't do anything when they go home except with the remote controls and the PlayStation. But I know one thing is that we can work them hard at 5 a.m. and we do that to try to get them so they understand the baseball shape. It's a little different than football and basketball, and we just try to get them into shape for baseball.
Coach Dikos?
Well, my main focus is my pitchers and catchers, and I tell that to our kids, before every workout. When I go explain the practice plan right there, our main focus is going to be our pitchers and catchers. It's not going to be a normal practice like we had this past week. So when it's warm enough, the days that it was warm enough, we go live scrimmage, like I said. But then if it's a little chilly where they're a little bit more standing around, we get our bullpens, and we have enough catchers and enough bullpens to throw 6 people at a time, and they pair up, and we try to give everybody a look. So in our situation, whoever wants to try out for pitching will get a look. Either the older guys will get a look, either on the mound and in a live scrimmage. The younger kids will get a look in the bullpen, and we'll be able to watch their fundamentals and ball movement and velocity and things like that. But my main focus is getting the pitchers and catchers ready.
Yeah, and I think that's true in our preseason, and now the season started. Part of it depends upon, like, if I have a veteran catcher, I don't have to do as many reps and situations, and we split those first couple days. We bring everybody. We have a JV field that's separate, but we bring everybody to the varsity, and then we'll do defense, maybe 2 deep at each position, and the young guys will run, and they'll run, and we teach them base running techniques. If they violate a rule, they run or lap. Just trying to show how important it is. And then I try to be a good, fair guy to my JV coaches. After we've gone for an hour and a half, I'll give them maybe 10 minutes on defense, because that's about all I can take at the beginning of the year. I think if nothing else, we did this one year. We recorded those first couple of days on videotape and then played it when those guys were seniors. And it really does hit you how much they've improved. And it takes a lot of patience early in the year when you got your JV freshmen all trying out and they're nervous. But we try to do the team, and we've had good weather, so we do the whole. Then we'll break it down more in the part later. But I'm like you guys, when you're on your field and the weather's nice, you've got to get more reps and scrimmage and situations, and then you can work on the little things much more detailed later.
How do you guys organize daily, weekly, trying to get in? You talk about your pitching and you're focused on that, but you've got offense, you've got defense, base running. There's a lot of defensive stuff. It's hard to practice when you're inside. Maybe if you didn't have the luxury of getting outside much, and how do you get the bunt defense, first and third, double cuts? How do you get all that in? How do you organize practice on a daily, weekly basis with those 4 phases of the game?
I want to hear what Greg's doing. He's the one that's on fire here lately.
Well, one of the things our numbers a little bit larger. We're talking. I probably have 35 freshmen and sophomores, and that many juniors and seniors. And so we can't, well, I shouldn't say it, fresh juniors, seniors, and some select sophomores. And so break them up into two groups. We have our older kids come on Mondays and Thursdays because they got pitching workouts. Basically, they're throwing bullpens or live scrimmage. We give them a couple days rest so they can throw Monday, and then they come back and they can throw either a bullpen on Thursday and or possibly scrimmage again. Our younger kids, we go Tuesday, Wednesday because they throw in the bullpens. They'll go a light workout, and then we'll go inter squad with the machine. With 2 hours, you got to be organized, and I try to knit. I get too detailed, but I don't know if I can describe this. Let's say I have a group of 18 kids. I want to make sure that they can play two positions. So if we're going to spend 20 minutes on rundowns, for example, I have a kid that's a pitcher during the first 10 minutes, and the second 10 minutes, he might be a first baseman. A first baseman, first segment, he's a pitcher the next. A second baseman, first segment, shortstop the next. If he's an outfielder, he's going to be a base runner, both things. So, or, a pitcher one segment, he's a base runner the next. So 10 minutes, boom, then we switch it. And I do the same thing for my bunts and my first and thirds. Okay. I organize it that way. They got to know at least two positions. And if they don't have that second position, they're a base runner probably during those drills. But I find that you got to be organized. 2 hours goes by really fast. One of the things I started before we even start practice, I want our kids to be fairly loose to begin with. So they do their bands and stretching before we even start. So that eliminates that kind of time. Again, something that they can do on their own. Don't waste practice time. But that's what that one drill is something that I've been doing the last couple of years, and it really helps out as far as organization. And I'll organize the older kids, and then I'll do the same thing for the younger kids. We don't spend too much time with first and third and bunts with the younger kids because half the kids are going to be gone, and there's no sense in teaching, those kind of Penn system to kids that we don't have to, I guess. I hate to sound that way, but we'll wait till the team is selected, and then we'll start getting to the bunt situations, first and thirds, and things like that for the freshman team.
So we've started here this week, Coach. Had a full week of practice under the belt. What was your guys' focus all week long in that first week?
Go ahead, Jake.
Well, our focus was more on situations. I'm telling you, I bought into this $6.95 for a month. This, what is it called? In motion playbook, and go over situations with kids because our kids just can't pick it up on their own. So we're out there trying to teach situations as much as anything. And along with that, with the scrimmage, because we saw so many things that were wrong with our scrimmage, and kids like to scrimmage, and we like to have them scrimmage, but we're doing this all off of the machine. We're not doing it live, but we're getting different situations. And then we break it down and we go into this in motion playbook thing, go over things with them and correct things with them. Earlier in the year, for the first 8 weeks there, we were working on basic individual specialty, hitting, bunting. Our pitchers getting bullpens like Greg does. We do Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday. We've got them set up into two groups of 8 kids each day. And so we've got 16 pitchers total. How many you guys have? Anyway, we got 16 pitchers there working out. But the nice thing is, really, honestly, is we get through them pretty well because, we don't have as many kids we have to develop, but situations are the biggest thing here when we got outside and got playing on Monday that we just have to keep reviewing because they just, I don't know, they just don't watch college baseball enough to know that. And it just drives me crazy that they don't watch baseball.
At one point,
Coach Burton, can you
go ahead.
elaborate more, Coach, on how you do your situational stuff? I know it is important, and it's a very difficult thing to simulate situations in game-like situations in practice. Can you elaborate a little bit more how you
Sure.
organize that and how you do it?
Well, on one day this week, we weren't outside, and so we had to be inside. So we just took the half court of the gymnasium, made the bases, and the outfield was in left, center, and right outside that. And we just would roll a ball, call the situation, roll a ball, and make sure they're going in the right position. That was a very basic. And then when we go outside, obviously we get a fungo out there and we're hitting balls, different situations. We just call out, run on first, 2 outs, or run on third, 1 out, and infield in, or different things. We just keep throwing those things at them so they learn and they react as soon as the ball's hit. We don't want to know where the ball's going, so that doesn't help us as much inside because they got a little time to think about it inside when we say, okay, this is what we're doing. But outside, when we're doing the actual live scrimmage off the machine, they got to react right away when the ball's hit, and that's probably our best situation to do our situation, best time to do our situations. But that's how we do our situations. And other than that, going over that video with the in-motion playbook and just reviewing that with them, that's how we've done it.
Coach Gobert, I've been fortunate to see some of your early season practices, and you got a lot going on at your practices. Can you go into some detail of your organization and kind of walk us through some of the things that you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish at practice?
Well, we do very similar. We'll count it whether it be in the gym or in a parking lot. We have a parking lot beyond center field, and we may take the freshmen and the 2 freshman coaches go out in the parking lot and introduce the bunt coverages, talk about a relay, go through the relay, explain it all. And then we expect them when they come back on the field to be ready to execute. It may not be pretty, but we do the same thing like Jake was talking about in the gym. We've done it in the cafeteria before. Wherever we can get a place to do it. And then we get back on the field, we expect them at least to be familiar with what we're talking about. I know a lot of young coaches do classroom. We do some classroom work, especially with a young group. We'll do one of the most effective things we do is just sit down with our catchers and pitchers and with the pitching coach and myself. I think I've called 7 pitches in my career, and 5 of them were home runs we gave up. So I'm really not. Actually, we're one of the few programs where almost 100% of our pitches are called by our catcher. And that's rare these days, and it wouldn't work for everyone. But we try to teach a lot about why. And my thinking on that is they're connected, they're together. He sees where the batter's at. He should be able to see what the batter's doing. He knows where the umpire's at, and he should know that guy on the hill. I've changed pitchers before and gone to somebody that's not as good a catcher, but relates better to the pitching staff. So I think we do a lot of communication, but not that organized. I was going to ask these 2 guys, like, I don't post a practice. I have never posted. I'm not saying that. I learned a lot when Phil McIntyre, I worked with him at the All-Star game, and I was just so amazed. Every day was scripted out, blocked. I'll tell them at the beginning of practice, we're going to work on, we're going to do whatever. I found naming a drill is good. We say we're going to do DePaul drill. You give it a name, they should know what it is. But I'm not one of those. When I was with Mike Seal in basketball at DePaul, you might have 15 minutes allotted to a certain basketball drill. And if we got it right in 5, we just moved on. So I'm not that organized, detailed where I stay next to it, but we have a purpose, and we call it come up the hill. When you leave the locker room, come up the hill. I try to explain to them after they've stretched, this is what we're doing. And I don't tell them you're going to do this 20 minutes, you're going to do this. I don't assign where to go. But like Greg was saying, we've got guys that are 2-way players, and we try to work them in those spots. And so that's where it helps to be organized, write it down. And I'll even tell my assistants to do that. But we do the same as most places. We just set up the situation. And like Jake was talking about early in the year, we script it and just say, we're at third, we're working on it. And I think you do real early, right, Jake? You're talking about in the gym. And then once we go live, we try to mix it up. But we take that time is more to teach our young guys. So something we do that's a little different, we'll have our projected number 1 catcher with a good young catcher, and they're going live, or we'll have 3 of them there. And then I have 1 coach assigned just to the catchers. But we like that young guy to just watch. He may not even get any reps, but he's going to watch, and he can ask at any time why they made a certain call, something like that.
All 3 of you been doing this long enough that I'm sure it's ingrained in the
Right,
back of your head. But do you guys have any kind of checklist or anything to make sure you get everything put in there? There's a lot going on in this last week and the upcoming week, getting a lot of things covered? Or is there, you use a checklist, or just been doing it long enough that it's just a habit for you?
I think it's just become a habit for me anyway. I mean, just we make sure, I go by practice by practice what we need to work on. And I do, like I said, I'm very detailed with my practices, but I'm like Terry, I don't share that with the ball players until they come out there and they're actually at practice right before we start our stretch. But it's become pretty routine, with the first and thirds and the bunts and the rundowns and situational baseball, that we can get a lot accomplished, I think, the way we run our controlled scrimmages, by getting the reps and the cutoffs, a lot of reps doing the things that we do.
I'm a guy that's pretty much to detail. So I have a script, and I'll send it out to them the night before, and they better know where they're going from at 4:10, where they're supposed to be and what group they're with and who's with them and that. And I don't have time to keep looking at my phone to look at the practice schedule. I used to keep it on paper, and I'd have it right here in my hand, but now we do everything by phone. And so I send it out to them, and I expect them to know who's in the bullpen and what catcher they're with. And at every 10 minutes, we rotate that. And I guess maybe I need to look at Gobert's plan, since he's won so many titles, and maybe I need to go with him.
No, I agree with you. I know what I'm going to do, but I know a lot of coaches share it like that. I've never been able to do it. If I took this camera and panned my room, you'd understand. I just have a hard time being that organized, but I know what I want done. I started with the Ron Polk book and the big checklist in there. And then I do keep my practice plans, and something simple is I put the weather on there, and I started doing that in games, and it makes more sense later. Just put 42, well, up north, I guess it's repetitive probably, but you know what I mean? When you play somebody and you forget it was cold last year or windy, well, same thing with practice schedule. I'll put the conditions there, indoor, outdoor. I have it. My basketball guys coaches that coach baseball always want to know at 10 o'clock. They say, well, in basketball, we know what we're doing that morning. So on basketball, you don't get rained out. You don't get snow. You don't get bumped out by another sport. Somebody left the sprinkler system on or whatever. In baseball, it's great to have that plan, but if you're a young coach, you better have plan B, C, and D. But I think that's important. But I do have a checklist, and then every once in a while we just get it out and say, hey, we haven't covered this yet in detail. And and I'm like Greg, I'm sure every once in a while that's pointed out to you, but for the most part, I just kind of go off of what I know we've done and haven't done.
When I first started, I had a checklist, and I'd check off each time, bunt defense, runner third situation. I did all that. But after you've done it for a while, you just go back to last year's practice schedule. And if it didn't work, I threw that out. And if it worked, I kept it. And so I look back to last year on March the 14th, what I do. And that's what we try to stay with, basically, because it's kind of worked.
I think for a lot of young coaches out there is getting that on paper to organize your thoughts as a young coach, saving them to go back and revisit from year to year would certainly be helpful.
I have my practice schedules from 1979 still here. That's when I started, and I still have those. And I showed the kids one of those last year because they said, were you always this organized? And I said, yes, I've always been that organized. I think it's because I coached football to start out with, and that's what I thought I wanted to be. And my football coach, Dave Ellison, was always attention to detail. I mean, every little minute you had to be here, and he rotated. He made sure practice got over at a certain time because that's what time parents were coming to pick kids up, and he didn't want to catch hell from them.
I have all my practices saved from like Jake, about 20 years ago. And with the computer, it's easy to reference. And I like to go back, the previous year, maybe even a couple years, and I'll go by what we do March 1st, for example, and then I'll check and see where we're at in March. What we do at the first practice, and I'll see what we did in years past, and I'll compare this year's squad to, hey, do we need to work on certain things? But I reference those things too. So it's easy with that, copy and paste and put a practice plan together. And I may not share it with the ball players. I do share videos of certain things with my ball players that I expect them to know when we get out there. Hey, this particular drill. This is how I want it to be run, and this is how the intensity that I want it to be run at. I do try to send it to my coaching staff, so the practice plan to our coaching staff, so they know what's going on. But to be honest with you, sometimes I can't get it out to them in time. So, for the first 15, 20 minutes, I'm discussing practice with my coaching staff. But that's basically it.
Coach Gobert, you talked about plan A, plan B, plan C. Last week was a pretty prime example of Indiana baseball. It was beautiful early in the week. We had the threat of some rain and thunderstorms later in the week. How do you guys prepare for that? I know you're looking downfield at weather. Every baseball coach does, but is there certain things when you're looking at weather, you're trying to get things done outside, knowing you may be inside later in the week, or how do you guys handle that? And what's your process of handling weather?
Well, I think, like you said, it's a little different today. You get a better forecast. It's not always 100% or anything, but you have a better idea of what's coming up. And so you do have to make adjustments, look ahead and say, like, maybe a dumb decision I made, I believe Thursday, it was 73 degrees, and I let them go sell cards for this adrenaline fundraiser. I've never done that in my whole life. And the next day it was 40 and wet, and we were indoors. What that lead to, follow your gut. You know when to push, when to pull, when to back off. So something a little different this year is we hit it hard for 3 days early in the season, outdoors and scrimmaging and live. And a lot of my guys are two-way. As a coach, there was nothing that told me maybe they need to back off a little bit with the throwing, et cetera. And so we did. And so I think we look at the weather and you make plans for both. The big issue we have here, like we're lucky we have a field house, but it's, not made for 55 guys. You can get one squad in there and you got to share quite a bit. And then they tore our gym down that was next to the school. And so we have to fight anywhere from the dance team to pickleball people like Mr. Burton and legendary, by the way. And it makes it difficult to know where you're going. So we use the parking lot. We still scramble around. But I think you just got to, for a young coach, take advantage of the days you got, but then you can do a lot. I think one reason Indiana baseball is good is when we started, guys, nobody had field houses, turf, or anything else. And you were in the hallway, a classroom, and you just find a way to get it done. And you talk to coaches at a national clinic from warm weather climate, and they're like, what? You break it down that simple? And nobody breaks it down like we do in Indiana. And then that's a compliment, and it's hard to let go of that. Even though we have better facilities, it still comes down to a lot of just specialty work and breaking the game down to fundamentals.
I have an indoor and an outdoor plan, and if there's a question whether or not we're going to be able to go outside, and if we stay inside, we have a plan where we have a small gym, and we have a very we get 3 hours of gym time for 56 kids. Okay, I was talking freshmen, JV, and varsity. And it's a small gym, and so we're utilizing hallways for conditioning, and the gym itself. We set up batting cages, and we do a lot of offensive things inside that if we have to stay inside. But like I said, if it's not raining, it's with the turf, we're going outside, and we just adjust as far as the temperature. If it's cold, we'll shorten practices to 1.5 to 2 hours instead of going to 3. But that's the adjustment that I make.
Coach Burton, anything you do differently?
No, I mean, we do look at the forecast, and so we know whether it's going to rain or not, or have a good idea whether it's going to rain or that. And so I make out 2 practice schedules. If, like tomorrow, I've got 2 practice schedules set up for tomorrow because I'm not sure how cold it's going to get. They said 38, but it might get lower. And if it gets too much lower, we're not going to go outside. And so I've got one for the indoors and one for the outdoors. And I won't send that to the kids until we're sure which way we're going. And I'll send them a text. And that texting can be really great. This emails and texting. Email bit me in the butt about 7 to 8 years ago. But since then, I've learned not to send things unless I'm sure it's the right thing. And so I'll wait until we're for sure what practice we're going to go with, indoors or out, and then I'll send it to the kids, and they're expected to pick it up and go from there. And they're expected to be ready for go either way. That's about it for me.
I've heard a couple times already this evening about two-way players. How do you guys get your two-way players their work? Whether get their position work in, getting their bullpens in. How do you guys balance those two things?
I'll go first. When we scrimmaged yesterday, Saturday, we went live. If a guy's going to be in the lineup every day for me and a top pitcher, maybe he threw later in the scrimmage instead of the very first guy to go, and then he's there for another 2.5, 3.5 hours after throwing and playing defensively. So I try to juggle that part, and then communication. I did not pitch. I never pitched in high school. I got banned when I was 12, couldn't Little League because I hit too many guys. And I've never pitched again. And so that's such an important part of the game. And I had to be reminded, Coach Howard and others over the years, fighting for those pitchers, because I really didn't give them the bullpen time, the quality time they need. So I asked my pitching guys first, what do you need? I'll make sure I'm double checking right. And then if I forget, they're going to remind me. But you have to keep a track of it. I don't have anything fancy like a sleeve that counts their pitches. We just use common sense.
I rank my guys, and what is their main priority on the team? If it's going to be pitching, we focus on pitching with that kid. I had a pitcher this year that wants to pitch and play shortstop. Well, I've never had a pitcher shortstop before. I know it's done. Last year I had a pitcher catcher combination. I've never had a pitcher catcher combination. At the varsity level, you just can't do it. So what's going to be their priority? And that's what we focus on. And if it's a secondary position, I've had pitcher first base, pitcher second base, pitcher outfield, possibly pitcher third base. And then they get their other work after they get their main priority taken care of, which is pitching, which is a pretty high priority with us.
We have 16 kids out of the 22 that are pitchers, and we tell them they got to be pitchers. They're throwers more than pitchers, but we got to have some arms. So our kids are all, like Greg had mentioned, two positions. They're all two position players, but they're also 16 out of 22 can at least get the ball across the plate. And so we'll split them in 8 guys will do a bullpen on Monday and Thursday, and 8 will do a bullpen on Tuesday and Friday. And that's kind of how we work it.
Do you do your bullpens before practice, into practice, in the middle of practice? How do you do those?
We incorporate our bullpens during practice. We do usually 10-minute to 15-minute bullpens, but we'll go 10 minutes at station. So we'll have 10 guys in the cage hitting, and we divide them. Maybe we got 22, so we got like 6 groups of 3 and 1 group of 4, and we'll rotate them through. The guys are in the cage hitting. Maybe 5 groups are in the field defending, and then we got a group down there in the tunnel working on specialty things, and then we got a bullpen, and they'll just rotate through that circuit. And so they're throwing and doing position and everything at the same day on the same day.
Coach Dikos, you do the same, something similar, or do you do anything different there?
Very similar. A lot of next week, Tuesday, Friday is going to be our pitching days. And I plan on, if we can't go inter squad, like I said, we'll go bullpen. We'll split up. We'll do our stretch. We get our base running in. We spend 10 minutes. We try to spend 10 minutes right after stretch on some type of base running. We'll loosen up the arms, and we'll go. I try to, instead of just letting them go out there and throw, there's some certain drill type thing, positional play, instead of just playing catch and without a purpose. So we'll do that, and I'll change up that routine. We'll have pitchers do their mechanics, and I'd let my pitching coach take care of that, doing flat ground work. But I'm like Jake early on. Before the team's selected, everybody's a pitcher, everybody's a catcher, because we're doing flat ground work all the time. We expect, expect everybody to be able to do those kind of things. We had a situation where I wanted to get all our pitchers throwing live, so on Friday we stayed indoors, and again, we have a small gym, but we're able to squeeze in 5 indoor batting cages, and we're able to have 5 live cages going on at the same time, and we were able to bang out, gee whiz, close to 20 kids throwing a 45 pitch workout, and even though it was kind of nice outside, I said, this is going to be our main priority. I want to see a lot of live. I want to make sure everybody sees live hitting. So we stayed indoors just to get that accomplished. We alternate with our softball program as far as getting to the gym right after school. And this time of season, I don't want to come back in the evenings and practice indoors. So like I said, if it's not raining, we're going to go outside, and we'll probably just throw bullpens on Tuesday and Friday, while the other ones are doing their specific infield, outfield type drills.
Coach Gobert, how do you handle your pitchers and getting those bullpens in?
Yeah, it depends how many are going that day, obviously, but we do a little bit of both, Jeff. We will. Yesterday, the top like 7 or 8, I can't remember offhand, guys went live, and they've in a range that they're supposed to be at. Some guys have been going longer than others, and they come in hot, they go down and warm up. But even during the week when they've got to throw a pen, it's generally the second half of practice. My pitching guy or guys go down with them. We put a screen up to protect, because our bullpen is on the field down the lines. And they'll work on what they need to work, and we'll go without them. But again, like Greg was saying, it depends. What's your primary thing? So the other thing I really didn't mention, when we go live, after you've thrown your pen, maybe you're a second two-way player. It's kind of obvious, but I'm not sure it is anymore. If a kid he was on the mound and then he's in left field, he's not going to come up throwing hard. If it's a cold day, windy day, all they got to do is be in the right position, field the ball, go through their motion, and then use common sense. We've all coached kids. They can go live. Some kids can throw the ball every day. They can throw a pin. They can come out, go to shortstop in the hole. So we just base it on that, but we make it a priority. We don't clean up while they go down and throw their pin, because I think that just says, oh, yeah, I forgot. You guys go down there, get that pin done. We try to make it. We try to get some live guys in, even if they're not hitting, just to see pitches, especially early on. Get some guys to stand in on the pen. It's good for the hitter. It's good for the pitcher. And so, yeah, it's a part of our practice, depending on who it is and who's scheduled.
Conditioning has been talked about a lot tonight. Lifting is an important piece of keeping an athlete ready to go. We're doing that all the off season. Do you guys continue to lift throughout your season, condition throughout the season? And if so, how do you do that? And how do you work that in?
I was going to ask Greg, do they have in weight training, do you have specific, like your baseball guys in a certain period on a certain program, or are they mixed in throughout the day with athletes in general?
We have a 4-block schedule every day. And the classes alternate, 4 classes like on Monday, 4 different classes on Tuesday, and they flip-flop, and they go they alternate, weekly. They have one of those blocks. We have we try to get all our athletes in a weightlifting class. So they have a specific weightlifting with just athletes. And they're a mixture of everybody, but it's just athletes. It's just not the regular PE person. there are other PE classes that the non-athlete can take, but they can't get into that weightlifting class. It's just athletes, and it is run that way. Our guy is really good. Matt Cates does a phenomenal job as far as discipline and getting those guys focused, and that's been a game changer for me because I couldn't find time to lift otherwise.
So, Greg, you've got 8 blocks, right? 4 every other day. So you got 8, and they're all athletes only lifting those weights in there. And
Yes.
and how many are in
Yes.
each class?
It depends, but I'll give you an example. I have 100. One of my classes is a weightlifting class. It's during third block, and there's 150 kids in that block, and we have, we have 1, 2, 3. There's 5 teachers in there because we have to split them up. We have a upstairs weight room that we have the freshmen, and we have a newer weight room downstairs where we let the veterans go down, and we bang out a workout in that, and it's run strictly by the strength conditioning coach. And like I said, he does a great job.
Okay.
We will lift, and it's the same story. It's pretty hard to cut a practice short on a beautiful day to go get in the weight room, yet it's important. And I started in 1988, and there weren't many of us lifting. And I used to point out to the kids, that ball you hit to the gap, that's because you lift. That's because you lift. And we used pitching machines when very few people did. We weightlifted when few people did. And we still try to get in there at least twice. We do have strength and conditioning, but we're a big 3A, small 4A under the current system. And we doubled our PE to 2 people here about 2 years ago. So it's very difficult to get them in. And I'm not criticizing anybody we have running it. It's just we don't have a lot of opportunities there. And so you have some kids that have lifted that day, some haven't. But I usually run it, but it is difficult to get it in. And when you start playing every night, when do you lift? It's hard to go off the field and say, now you got to get it in the weight room. But we try to find a way to get a workout in.
We only have about half of our squad that's in the weightlifting class, and they're in a block schedule too. So we have what we call Indian hour twice a week. They come in we start school at 8:05, and they come in at 6:45, and for an hour they do their lifting twice a week. The other kids do, the younger ones.
We have a 0 hour as well. Kids that can't lift during the school day, and we still have them come 0 hour. Then that's before school, and they can still get credit for that. That class, but we have them all lifting.
So you guys sounds like you guys are shooting to try to get two lifts in a week during the season.
Yes.
That's what we do.
We continue lifting, and we'll modify it game day, obviously, and there's a game day workout that's different from everybody else, and the coaches and the teachers know that are running the classes. But yeah, two times a week minimum, sometimes 3 times a week.
Last question of the night, gentlemen. I'm asking this question assuming that you're involved with your scheduling. What I'd like to know is, do you view the first 2-3 weeks of the season similar to what spring training would be for Major League Baseball, that you're working on certain things or playing kids in different positions to try to find what lineup works? Maybe you've got competition going on at a position. And also adding to that is, what is your approach to scheduling in terms of who you're looking to play, big games, competitive games? Are you scheduling lighter games in there? Coach Burton, we'll start with you.
Well, unfortunately, we start out with Central Catholic every year. The first conference game on a Tuesday, and they've been pretty successful, so they're pretty well coached. Tim does a great job there, and we have to be at the top of our game to be able to compete with them. So, no, we're not looking to play everybody or anything else. We're looking to win that game and be the best we can be that day, so we can compete with them, because we play them on Tuesday, Wednesday, back-to-back. And then for our scheduling, we'll play 2 conference games a week, and then we'll probably try to find a weak opponent and a real strong opponent. And so we try to balance it out that way, and hopefully we're able to split the conference games and win the weak one, and we might lose the good team. And so we have come out with a 500 record that week. So that's all we're looking for right now. I think we're going to be better this year. And so we've added a few more teams. We've added Fishers, and the kids looked on the schedule and says, why in the heck are we playing Fishers? Well, if you don't play those teams, you're not going to get better. Schreiber told me that a long time ago. We played him 30 games. I played him 15 years, 2 games, a doubleheader at LaPorte every year. We won 4 and lost 26, but we did get better. So I think you got to play the best teams.
That's the way I approach it too, Jake. We try to play the best teams out there available. Okay, we'll open up with LaPorte, again Northridge, then Carroll, and then a double with Carmel, and then we'll start our conference play after that. And there have been many years that I've started off the season with like a 2-5 record going into the conference play, and beating up a team, by 10 runs tells me absolutely nothing. We want to find out, and I do use it those first, and we touched on it during the state clinic this year with travel ball. The way it is, we no longer practice and play together as a team anymore. Their kids are off doing their own thing with their travel teams, so they come in. I know they're good ball players, but we got to build a little chemistry and who's going to be the best at particular positions. So we're playing around with it for about a week, 2 weeks before our conference starts. And even up to the middle of the season, I made some changes last year. Kids just weren't doing the job, and we had to rotate some things around. So yeah, it's like a spring training type thing, trying to figure out my best 9 people.
I followed Coach Howard, and he always said, play the best teams you can find for the first 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, find out where you're at. Don't fool yourself for a month, and all of a sudden you realize, boy, we got exposed here. We've been in a unique situation because we've gone from 3 to 4A and now back to 3A, and you change your schedule based on that, especially down here. Like some teams didn't want to play us, or some teams wanted to play us. And so my schedule has changed more in the last few years than ever before. Now I'm in a conference that has several 4A, and it looks like we are in 3A. So I believe in that same philosophy. I also have a lot of respect for our practices. So when I get the question, when is Johnny going to get a chance? I can look anyone in the eye. He gets a chance every day in practice. And I think you both feel that same way too. And I agree with Jake, and both of you, Greg. If you got to make changes, you do, but I give the first op to the guys that I think. I don't go into that game going, hey, I'm going to split these 2 at this position and these 2. We're going to go with what we think is our best lineup, play as many good teams you can early, and it's going to help you in the tournament. And I think if you look at teams that are successful year in, year out in programs, that's what they do.
Do you guys try to schedule a certain amount of games per week to give yourself an opportunity to have some practice time each week? Or you're just getting games in whenever you can?
It depends on the spring. There's times that we played five games during a week just because we got to mix up some makeup games in there. Now with the turf field, it makes it a lot easier. We just got to talk teams into coming to our place if their field isn't playable. So but there have been weeks 4 and 5 is not uncommon for us up here in the north.
We go, our conference goes Tuesday, Thursday. And so it's taken more of that. We play in tournaments, or we haven't played a doubleheader in years, but we play in some tournaments on the weekend. But our schedule no longer has any continuity to it, even at the beginning. Like I'm guessing Jake has an organized schedule and he plays certain days of the week, week in, week out, and that's a great way to do it. I remember when you used to look at LaPorte, am I right or not? He had certain days and he threw that one the number 3 guy on the other day, but with the weather and everything else, we load up early actually, and then if we can, and then it's tough to get games in when you get into May.
We got messed up a little bit this year with our opening week. We're going to play 5 games. Kokomo could only play us on a Friday, and so I have a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, but now we're picking them up. So we got a 5-game right off the bat. And like I said, that's why we got 16 pitchers, right? So we can throw them all out there, but we'll see how that comes out. But I like to try to play 4 games a week. I very seldom ever play doubleheaders on Saturdays anymore. We used to play every Saturday doubleheaders, but we don't do that anymore. And we'll play 2 conference games Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we'll pick up one either Thursday, Friday, and then game on Saturday. And what we do on Saturdays now is we play a varsity JV doubleheader usually.
Last thing for the evening, guys. What's the best piece of advice you guys would give to these young coaches that are coming into to being head coaches at these high school programs today?
All right, I'll go first and give these guys because they're going to have better answers than I am. But I want to make this one point. And Greg, you talked about 2 years ago at the state clinic when you made a decision and you let some older guys go and they weren't bad ball players, but you went with your gut feeling and your chemistry. I guarantee you all 3 of us have been doing this our whole career. I'll talk to a young coach. He goes, well, yeah, you can get away with that. You're established. Or you can set a guy down for his attitude because you're established. But I can remember being 5 and 8. And I sat my first year of coaching and I sat down. My 2 best players were seniors and they weren't on board with me. I benched them and they had a guy coming to watch them play, from a college, and dads were upset with me and both moms thanked me privately because they knew they needed it. So I really feel you got to coach with your gut. It's easy to look at numbers or velocity. This guy, you're the one that has to sleep all off season. So my advice in a young coach is, do your homework, but do what you think is right. And then the other thing is, and Jake, you've coached on both ends of the spectrum as far as a big school and, you got your facilities built up and it's a lot of fun to build one up. But people say to me, kids will say, well, yeah, you got a nice place or you have someone that takes care of your field. We're lucky we have a guy that mows and helps out, but our kids take care of our field. And I know it's a little different with turf, but they take care of the facility. So when we go on the road, I'll tell a young coach, you got 18 players right there that are free help. They can pull the weeds around the visitors' dugout, or they can pick up the trash. Or I just don't like it when young coaches say, well, you guys have this. We all started with nothing and we had that pride. And that's my point to young guys is, the 3 of us stay up later than we should at the clinic, but we would talk to anyone, anytime, anywhere to try to help the game of baseball. But every one of us is built on that principle the whole way down. And you quit saying what you don't have and just whatever it is you do have, run with it and make it the best you could be.
I'll echo what Terry just said. You have to understand, when you make those decisions, you got freshmen, sophomores looking at you, what you're doing up there. And if you make the right decision, you've eliminated problems for the next 3-4 years. If you make the wrong decision, you got the same problem for the next 3-4 years because they see what you tolerate. You got to have some limits, some standards, and you just got to stick with it. And let's say you can eliminate something, and it was that for that year. But I guarantee the younger kids were watching, and their behavior changes as well. That's the advice I would give.
I think it's really important that they try to find a guy. Don't do it all. Try to find a guy that can take your pitchers and run with it, and try to find a guy that can take your hitters and run with it, and you do everything else. I know that the biggest thing about our program is that all of our guys feel involved and feel like they've got a job. Their assistant coaches are not just supervisors; they coach. And you got to do that, I think, and then never get outworked by anybody in the program. I think you've got to be the hardest worker in the program, and the last thing I think is that you never quit practice before the track team quits practice, because they're a big social sport over there. Guys are out for girls, the girls are out there, so they're out for track instead of baseball. I never let them outwork us. They never stay later than we do. So the kids will look over there and it's snowing out and they'll see the track team going in. And they thank goodness that we're going in practice now. And that's about right.
They're the ones that drive by with the convertibles honking and wave while your guys have another hour and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
Here as well.
Well, gentlemen, I thank you for your time tonight. It's been a true joy for me to sit here and listen to you 3 talk about your experiences and your beliefs. And I hope the young coaches and even some of the veteran coaches around the state will listen to this and pick up some things that you guys mentioned tonight. And I wish all three of you the best of success this spring in the season.
Thank you, Jeff. It's an honor to be on the same platform with